Well, I really didn't want to use the iPhone because this week um, Wi-Fi makes it take hours for it to upload, whereas on the camera and I put the card in, it just takes a couple of minutes to upload a video. But my battery went low again on that, and I ran out of space on my card, so I have to put a different card in there. But I started making this video, and isn't it something? We aren't going to get any apologies from the far right that couldn't wait to capitalize, including old Trump, to capitalize on the death, the murder of white nationalist, racist, sexist, grifter, and operative Charlie Kirk on Wednesday. They couldn't wait to start trashing the Democrats. Oh, some of them were just almost itching to start a civil war, and they were all talking out of their ass to incite it against Democrats. They were hoping to get a way to, make it illegal to have an opposition party, these motherfuckers, excuse my language, or don't. And it kind of didn't age very well. It really didn't. Because come to find out that the person suspected of killing Charlie Kirk was himself even more right-wing. And he was said to have been a groyper, which is kind of like somebody that's, I don't want to say a follower, but somebody inspired by that damn fool Nick Fuentes, who is also a grifter. But anyway, Tyler Robinson was a student at a different college, lived some hours away from this university where Charlie Kirk spoke in Utah, and he was quite upset with Charlie Kirk because Charlie Kirk wasn't right-wing enough. And so we'll have to see how this all plays out, but it would appear that everything I've read about it is that he did it, and whether he gets put in front of a firing squad or takes the needle, I don't remember if Utah gives death row inmates that choice, but whether it's one or the other, he's cooked. He's done. So this guy supposedly was in the 99th percentile on standardized tests. So he was supposed to be this brilliant fool, kind of like Dana Ewell, who I have talked about in my videos. Not too damn smart at all. And he would have been caught anyway, given the fact that he left the rifle out there. They would have found fingerprints. They would have found everything. DNA, whatever. He would have been caught anyway. So, anyhow, but what he did succeeded in doing by killing Charlie Kirk was he made him a quasi martyr for the radical right, for the extremist right. And, there's no more, in my other video, I had some compassion for his wife and kids because they had to witness that. But his wife was right out there talking about how he died doing, basically died doing what he loved, and talking about how he was a martyr and all this other shit. So she couldn't wait to get out there and exploit it. So I guess once a grifter, always a grifter. So she's grifting on his behalf. But I'm sure she's going through trauma. She has to be going through trauma. So anyway, she would have been better off just not talking about it and just taking time off to grieve. But anyhow, Nick Fuentes was known to have despised Charlie Kirk. And I think a lot of that was motivated by envy. Not so much that Kirk wasn't pure enough, but it was motivated by envy because Kirk very early on, had connections. And I had seen someplace where his dad was an architect, and supposedly he had done work for Trump-related real estate. I don't know if that's true, but he wasn't poor, and he went to high school. He went to a public high school, and his right-wing stuff began pretty early in life. And he wrote this essay or something, or had this campaign or something having to do with school lunches or something like that in high school. I'd have to look it up. But some wingnuts, and they're always watching for future converts to the cause, future grifters to the cause, to distract people while these backers are working on politicians to steal more money from the masses. But they were impressed with him, so he had connections to some guy I think named Bill Montgomery, who had a lot of money, and they helped start up this outfit called Turning Point USA. And the goal of Turning Point USA was to con a bunch of young people, especially young men that are full of this red pill shit, white males, and con them into supporting policies that would screw them over, and also make them even more vehemently racist and hateful and sexist and all of that, and xenophobic and all that other stuff. And so, he marketed hate. He was a hate merchant. Kirk was a hate merchant. And he made a lot of money at it. I'd seen somewhere when he had died, when he died, his estate was around $12 million and counting. And so, Fuentes undoubtedly was envious of that. And plus, Kirk was a lot more polished and a lot more sincere. I'm not entirely convinced that Nick Fuentes believes one damn word he spews. And I've watched his antics I've never watched actually his show, but I've watched his antics that are excerpted on Right Wing Watch. And that's the first time I'd ever heard of him. And he just comes across as completely insincere, like he does not believe a word he says, and it's almost like a parody or satire that he's peddling. But, I don't know if he's aware of how he comes across. Maybe he is. But anyhow, so he was jealous of Kirk. But Kirk, on the other hand, and watching some of his stuff, since he died, he was a true believer in this Christian Reconstructionist bullshit. He actually believed this shit he was spewing. And that's what made him dangerous, because he really believed it. And he got he had a lot of following, a huge following, more than Fuentes ever had. And so Fuentes was kind of jealous, I think, or envious. So he didn't like Charlie Kirk. He didn't like him at all. And probably the feeling was mutual. But anyway, this Tyler Robinson did not like him either. Obviously didn't like Charlie Kirk. But anyway, let's look at this, about this character, Tyler Robinson. He was from Washington, Utah. He was 22, and he was arrested on suspicion of aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily harm, and obstruction of justice. All felonies, according to a probable cause statement filed in court and released Friday. A judge ordered that he be held without bail. And it says here, Robinson mentioned Kirk's upcoming visit to Utah Valley University, located about 3.5 hours from the family's southern Utah home, at a recent dinner, kicking off a conversation about how he didn't like Kirk's viewpoints, family told authorities. A full picture of his political leanings was still emerging. Utah state records show he is registered to vote but that he's not affiliated with a political party and is listed as inactive, meaning he didn't vote in the 2 most recent general elections. So there he is. Let's see if I can get it there. Okay, it's a little bit better. I've got the damned iPhone again. But his listed address in the probable cause statement is the 6-bedroom home of his parents, who own a granite countertop business and are registered to vote as Republicans. And reportedly, they are LDS. So, Latter-day Saints, Mormons, whatever you want to call them. So anyway, they're kind of shocked at the news that he didn't seem to be the type that would do it. And this article goes into detail about him. Yeah, he was an honor roll student, but he's basically thrown his life away because of hate and all this bullshit paranoia. So anyway, in the family, it says here, a break in the case came after a family member of Robinson reached out to a family friend with information that Robinson had, quote, confessed or implied involvement in the shooting. Utah Governor Spencer Cox told reporters Friday, shortly after Robinson was taken into custody. Cox said authorities believe that Robinson acted alone. Family members said Robinson had become more political in recent years. And they talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had, Cox said, referring to Robinson and an unnamed family member. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. And I wonder why. It's all because they're brainwashed. And then I would see people that I used to work with at a former school that I worked at, or formerly at a school I worked at. And they were all, we should support, we should pray for Charlie Kirk and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, you're working with kids that are Latino descent, and a huge portion of them are, and you have that kind of political belief system. Keep the fucking politics off social media, because it makes you sound unfit to work with kids. But anyway, there more facts are going to come out about this Tyler Robinson guy. But anyway, yeah, don't expect any apologies from the far right toward Democrats, towards the American people, by jumping the gun. They look at any kind of avenue they can, or any kind of opening they can, to spew their filth. And their filth is what caused Charlie Kirk, who also was a filth merchant, was also a hate merchant. That's what caused him to be killed in the worst way possible, in front of his family. But anyway, on that little note, it's going to take me hours to upload this thing. But on that note, I'm done.